Good afternoon. I think if referrals have been around for some time, I think there is always some struggle on what is this strange thing that is a referral. And I mean, even sometimes with smaller companies that only have some, there are specific, or there are, in certain countries, we have really lots of very basic questions. What is this of a referral? So everyone knows what is a type variation or an initial marketing authorization, but when it comes to referrals, there is always some confusion. So I tried to put, just to start with, a very basic, what is a referral? And I think it's just to think about the name. It's to refer something to someone. And in fact, what is a referral? Basically, it's a procedure that is in the legislation that is used to resolve issues, problems that can be linked to the quality, to the efficacy, the safety, or the overall benefit risk of a product or a class of products. And in fact, the word referral is because this is referred to the agency, because the majority of the referrals we do have, it's about nationally authorized products. So it's not about the centrally authorized products, even if in some cases we have a mixture or we have, but like 80% of the referrals, it's really about nationally authorized products, that there is an issue, something that is not going well, and then it's considered that there will be a benefit of being a committee, an European committee, looking into it and coming to a common conclusion that then can be transmitted to all member states and can be implemented in the same way in all member states. And this is pretty much what a referral is about. There are various types of referrals. And as I said, the big difference, of course, now with the new pharmacovigilance legislation is that till now, all referrals that we will receive here at the agency were going to CHMP evaluation. And now with the new pharmacovigilance legislation, what will happen is that some of them will go still to CHMP, the ones that are mainly linked to problems on the quality or efficacy of the medicinal products. But if it's linked to the safety, pharmacovigilance data, then it goes to PRAC. And I just included some, in case you have not come across referrals, or I just include the links where all the information about what is a referral, and it's in our website. So the focus of this presentation is more on the safety referrals. And we have basically these 4 types of safety referrals. The 2 first ones are really what we are the core of the safety referrals, and this is what is also the core of the new pharmacovigilance legislation in terms of safety referrals. These articles themselves, they already existed, so we use already to have Article 31 and Article 107, but they substantially change it with the new pharmacovigilance legislation. And then we have the Article 20, that it's also a referral, but it's for a centrally authorized product. So when there are really serious concerns on the benefit risk of a centrally authorized product. And then we have a softer referral, that it's not a real referral in the sense of the word, because it will be only a request for a scientific opinion from the CHMP on a certain issue. And we'll explain it later, exactly what does it mean, each of them. So with the new pharmacovigilance legislation, what have been the main changes that have been introduced with regards to safety referrals? So as I said, the first big change is that for all safety referrals, there will be a systematic involvement of the PRAC. So the bulk of the assessment will be done by the PRAC. There is increased transparency. Throughout the whole procedure, from the beginning till the end, we will be publishing a number of documents, from timetables, list of questions, the notification that triggers the referral itself. So there will be much more transparency on these procedures. The other novelty is the public involvement. There will be possibility in certain types of referrals for a very proactive and participation from the public. And then there was this character of urgency that was reinforced, because in fact some of the timeframes that were foreseen in the legislation have been shortened in case when there is a need to take a very quick action. So if I start by the main referral procedure that was introduced by this new pharmacovigilance legislation, it's the so-called Article 107I, that is the urgent union procedure. And I think the name itself speaks that it's a union procedure that's urgent, so it means that an urgent action is needed. And basically, where should we use it, or when? It's when a member state or a company or the Commission is aware that, in view of the evaluation of pharmacovigilance data, there will be a need for one of the actions that I've put in my slide. So if a member state is reviewing spontaneous reports that just arrived in relation to a certain medicine, and they think, okay, there is something here, this is really serious, I think probably we'll need to go for a suspension, even if it's like a preventive one, while we look into this data, then this will be the triggering point. Just the fact that the member state is considering that possibility, it will be already a triggering point to have this Article 107. And what is also a novelty is now it's clearly mentioned also that in case the marketing authorization holder itself takes an action, so if the marketing authorization holder decides to voluntarily withdraw a product from the market, then it will also need to confirm if it was for safety reasons or not, and if it will be for safety reasons, then again, this procedure needs to be initiated at community level. So that's also a big difference from what was in the past. So just a very short summary, who can start these procedures? The member states or the European Commission, if the European Commission becomes aware of an issue, mainly if it will be for a centrally authorized product. How are we informed? There are certain routes that existed already before when there is a safety issue which requires urgent action at community level. We have a system that whole the network is informed, but in addition to that, we will need to receive an official request, a letter, what we call a notification, from the member state or the Commission, officially requesting our committees, requesting the agency to look into the issue. If we start this urgent union procedure, which products will be concerned? All products that contain a certain active substance or that contain, or if we are talking about a therapeutic class, it will be all the products belonging to that therapeutic class will be included, being generics or not. So if it's a safety issue, and this is like, I think, 95% of the cases of the safety issues, they are linked to the active substance itself. So we are not only going to look at the product itself for which the cases were reported, or we are going to look at all medicinal products authorized in Europe that contain that active substance. Meaning that at the end, the outcome of such procedure will be also linked and binding all products that are on the market in the European Union. So for the time being, in the future, we will have tools that we will have automatically access to all this information, which products are authorized in which member state. For the time being, what we do is that as soon as we receive a notification, we have a network with the member states. We have specific contact points at the level of the national competent authorities of the member states that immediately provide us information on all the products they have in their market concerned by this issue. If you want to interrupt me at any time, feel free, because we have 1 hour for us, and it's a long presentation, so if you prefer to interrupt me while I'm speaking, that's okay, no problem. So what are the main points of this urgent union procedure? So once we receive a notification, as I said, the PRAC will be the one performing the assessment. It's a very short time frame, a maximum of 60 days for assessment by the PRAC. So there will be a maximum of 60 days for the PRAC to come out with a recommendation in relation to this issue. A public hearing may be held, and this is, again, a novelty. So the pharmacovigilance legislation has introduced it in relation to safety referrals, this possibility of having a public hearing and, you know, with the participation from patients, from doctors, investigators, whoever would like to present data that could be considered relevant to the assessment of the issue. I just want to bring to your attention that this public hearing, it's what we call in the legislation a may provision. So it's not mandatory. It's not something that we need to do every time we have one of these procedures. the agency is currently working on some documents on developing some criteria, in which case it could be applicable to have a public hearing, but it will not be a systematic tool that we'll use for all procedures. Then, in addition to that, we'll still continue to have at our disposal what we have already now, the scientific advisory groups, the ad hoc expert meetings. So in addition to the public hearing, the PRAC can also consult other scientific experts that we are already doing currently. And at the end of these 60 days, then the PRAC will issue a recommendation. And I'll explain you later this recommendation depending on if we are talking about only nationally authorized products, of a mixture of nationally and centrally authorized products. This will go then to the CHMP or not. The other key point of this procedure is that temporary measures can be taken at any time, meaning the PRAC will have 60 days to assess, but as soon as we receive the information, and if the PRAC immediately, we receive the information from the companies, we receive the information from investigators, and the PRAC looks at the data in its first meeting after receiving this information and thinks, this is really a serious signal. We think there is really something very serious here. We need to protect public health. The best thing is that, okay, while we look at the other data that will come and do an in-depth assessment, the best it will be probably already to suspend the product or to communicate to the doctors. So there are measures that can be taken immediately, even before the formal legal procedure will be finalized. And as I said at the beginning, throughout all the procedure, one of the things that is really has really changed is that the agency will be much more transparent on these procedures. So from the very start, we'll announce, we'll publish all the documents that are adopted by the PRAC. So there will be really an increased level of transparency. So we receive this notification from a member state or from the Commission, and what will be the first thing to be done? Of course, that we need, the most important is that we collect all the data that can be relevant to the assessment and to come to a conclusion. So the first step of the procedure is really to collect all the data relevant to the issue. And traditionally, till now, for all these procedures, the ones submitting this data were the companies, the marketing authorization holders that have done the trials, that are aware of the spontaneous reports. Now, with this procedure, this collection of data is really open. Anyone can submit data, and this is very clearly spelled in the legislation. So everyone in the public healthcare professionals can submit data to be considered for the assessment. So on that regard, we have already a dedicated mailbox that has been created. We have a submission form that can be used by patients, by doctors, by anyone who would like to submit data in relation to the issue that is being assessed. I would not go into more detail into this because tomorrow you will have a dedicated presentation for this, to know how to submit data and which template to use, which is the mailbox. All of these you will have a dedicated presentation tomorrow, so I will not go into detail into that. One thing is that, of course, if you submit data, or if anyone will submit data, it will be considered for the assessment. And then, because at the end, the PRAC recommendation will be made public, everything that you will submit, not the submission itself, but the assessment of such data will become available in the public domain at a later stage. So we start the procedure and we announce it. We immediately say, okay, we put immediately, like for instance, this week we are having PRAC, it's just finished. Tomorrow we'll put in our website all the procedures, all the referral procedures that are starting this month. And basically we will put a summary of the safety issue. We will publish the notification that triggered the procedure and the scientific background justifying such triggering. We will publish a draft list of all products concerned, the questions that have been adopted by the PRAC to be addressed by the companies, or in case of a 107I, to be addressed by anyone who would like to provide data, and the timetable to provide these data and for the PRAC to assess such data. If the PRAC will immediately decide on its first meeting that there is a need for a public hearing, this will also be immediately put in the public domain. And as I said, there will be a clear indication on the possibility for submitting data and with all the indications you would need to do so. So if we'll go to our web page and can we open the link? Yeah, sorry. It does work, the link? No. I thought the link was working. No. There was a link there. Yeah. If you put in full screen, it will open. Yeah. Thank you. So this is just to show you, it's not a 107i because we have not yet had a 107i since the new legislation kicked off, but it will be the same structure. So for each procedure that we will start, we will create a dedicated web page for that procedure. So this one is the one started last month for diclofenac containing medicines. So there will be a dedicated page for that procedure. And all information we would like to know about that procedure, all the information you will find under this dedicated page for the concerned procedure. And as you can see, you can immediately know where are we in the procedure. So for this case, we have just started. So it's started, but then as we are progressing, you will know, okay, now it's under evaluation, or we have just adopted the PRAC recommendation, or we just got the final commission decision. And then if we go to click in all documents, you will find all documents that have been published while we progress on the procedure itself. And it's also in this page that you will find information on how to submit, if it will be the case. In this case, it was an Article 31, so it's not open for everyone to submit data. But in case of a 107i, there will be clear information when you open this page on how to submit and which questions are being considered for you to, yeah.
I just have a question on something you said earlier. You said that if a marketing authorization holder wants to withdraw a product for a safety concern, it needs to pass via this procedure. What if the recommendation of the PRAC is that the safety concern is not valid, or that the product should stay on the market? Is that then an obligation for the marketing authorization holder to, for this reason, they should find another reason then?
In fact, not. I mean, you cannot oblige. No. There is nothing in the legislation that obliges a certain marketing authorization holder to keep a product on the market. So we can just, you know, the PRAC will do the assessment, will conclude on the same way. If it doesn't conclude on the same way, we'll give its reasons and say, okay, we thought this was not enough. We don't think the signal is strong enough. We don't think the data is strong enough. So I think it will be very positive from a scientific viewpoint, because then you will have another view on the issue, but it will not directly impact on the authorizations itself, because if the company has decided we don't want to continue, we don't have a tool to oblige them to do so. Yeah. Can we just go back to the presentation, please? Thank you. Yeah. So this is just to give you an overall, it's a very short slide, so you don't need to fix all of it, but I just want to call your attention for 2 or 3 things. So as I said, as soon as we receive the notification, we will announce the procedure. So we'll have the first PRAC meeting where the PRAC will discuss the notification, will consider the issue, we'll adopt a list of questions, a timetable, everything, and then we'll put it in the public domain. If we are talking about an Article 107i, the so-called urgent union procedure, companies or any other stakeholder will have a maximum of 20 days to submit data. So it's very short time frames. So it will give everyone the opportunity within 20 days of our announcement to submit any relevant data. This is to allow that in the following meeting, the PRAC could already have a first view of the issue, and the rapporteur could already have a quick look and say, okay, there is a need to adopt temporary measures because really this is very serious, we need to protect public health immediately, or we need to consult other experts because we think this is such a specific domain that there will be a need to consult a specific scientific advisory group. So there will be immediately in the following meeting a preliminary discussion. And of course, to have that preliminary discussion, we need to have received the data. Then, between the second and the third meeting of the PRAC, we will have the real assessment. So the rapporteur and the co-rapporteur at the PRAC will do the real assessment. That will be discussed then in the following meeting. And finally, at day 60, the PRAC will issue its final recommendation. And I just want to highlight, because I know it's a little bit confusing, because I start by saying this is a procedure that we only have 60 days. The 60 days that are in the legislation is 60 days for PRAC assessment. So it means once the data is received, the PRAC has 60 days to look into it. So it's not an overall 60-day procedure, including also the submissions and everything. Now, you have certain time for submission, and then after that time, the PRAC will have 60 days to look in the data that has been submitted or that is available in order to issue its recommendation. What can be the possible outcomes of the PRAC, so in terms of recommendation? And these outcomes are clearly defined also in the legislation, but they are the ones that we already currently use. So the PRAC can conclude, okay, no further evaluation or action is required. We don't think really this was an issue. Can conclude that the company or the companies should conduct further evaluation or to get more data in order that the signal can be confirmed or not, or in order we can conclude on this issue. Or the company should do a post-authorization safety study, or the company should implement further risk minimization measures, or then, of course, we can have the most drastic actions, that is, the product should be suspended, revoked, or not renewed, or then the usual changes to the SPC and the package leaflet. What is another novelty? It's also, in addition to the recommendation, there will be also a need to define a timetable for the implementation of such recommendation. And in the PRAC recommendation itself, it needs also to be clear if there were any members of the PRAC that were not in view of or were not in agreement with the majority view. So any divergent positions will also be made publicly available. So once we have the PRAC recommendation, at the time, at the committee, at the PRAC meeting where the recommendation will be adopted, so this will be published in the agency website on the Friday, a press release, and a kind of a summary document saying what was the main recommendation of the committee. What happens after? So once the PRAC has issued its recommendation, depending if we are talking only about nationally authorized products or if we have a mixture of national with centrally authorized or only centrally authorized, then this recommendation will go to the CHMP or to the CMDH. So if it's only nationally authorized products, it goes to CMDH. If there is at least one centrally authorized product, then this recommendation goes to the CHMP. And both these committees have then 30 days, a maximum of 30 days, to consider the recommendation from the PRAC and to issue its final opinion. That can be exactly the same as the PRAC, can just say, okay, we agree with the PRAC recommendation, or they can have a different view, and then if it will be the case, they will need to explain why they have a different view or why they recommend something different, and all these explanations will also become available in the public domain. And In case we have a cap, meaning we have a CHMP opinion, then it's mandatory to have a Commission decision that then will be binding to all products that were involved in the referral. Or if it's only nationally authorized products, then if within CMDH all member states represented are in agreement with the recommendation, there will be no legally binding Commission decision, so it will be the responsibility of the member states to implement such recommendation. If there are divergent views amongst CMDH, then we go, again, it's a mandatory Commission decision in order to ensure that all member states then will implement what was the recommendation. Yeah.
How many days for the European Commission to decide after receiving the opinion?
It's the normal decision-making process, so as it is today. It's 2 months and something. But the good thing, as I said at the beginning, is that if you adopt temporary measures at any stage of the procedure, you send it immediately to the Commission, and for temporary measures, the Commission does not need to follow the standard decision-making process. So it can be like, in 1 week, you can have a Commission decision on temporary measures. So that's the protection in case of really a need for a very urgent action. Yeah.
Just for clarification, for it was not completely clear to me when we speak about national authorized products, it goes to the CMDH, and for if there's a centralized authorized product, it goes to the CHMP. But it was not clear to me whether it is either to the one or the other, or it can also go to both committees.
No, it's one or the other. Yeah, it's one or the other. And it's a question of competencies, because, of course, for centrally authorized products, the competence relies on the Commission, so the Commission will always need to issue a Commission decision. So as far as there is one centrally authorized product, it's go to the CHMP and then to the Commission. But you can also have their nationally authorized products, because lots of these referrals, it's class issues. So you have various active substances with a variety of nationally authorized products and centrally authorized products, so a mixture. But as far as you have a mixture, you go to CHMP and you follow the normal process going to the Commission with a Commission decision that then will be binding on the member states. But if it's really only poorly nationally authorized products, then it goes to the CMDH and not to the CHMP. So once we arrive at the CHMP opinion or the CMDH position, we will publish again. CHMP and CMDH, they are within the same week. So once they receive the recommendation from the PRAC, they discuss it, and then they come to their final opinion. And this will also, again, will be completely transparent. We'll put immediately everything on our website, including the full opinion and the full assessment report. And this is also a big difference from what we are doing now, because currently we only publish assessment report for referrals once we have a Commission decision, as we do for any other procedure. With the new procedures, as soon as we have a final opinion from the committees, then we will publish everything immediately, or in a couple of days. But we will not wait for the Commission decision.